contraption for this. Who's a genius? It's me. I'll get a piece of fabric attached to a string. You see what's back in my step? That's right, the spring. The leaves give the flavor without the fear of spreading. Now this is the greatest invention since the dawn of bedding. Now it can be enjoyed with any snack, sweet or salty. With this invention there is squat that is faulty. I look at my creation and I proudly wave my victory flag. It's like someone eating nuts, cause I just made the tea bag. The year is 1906, a more uncivilized time, where tea leaves were just infesting everywhere. The issue presenting itself was the leaves getting everywhere. Frustration of wanting to drink made it so unfair. All I want to do is enjoy the tasty water. Getting leaves in your teeth turns it to an enjoyment slaughter. Need someone to come along and fix this heinous blot. Then I thought, that's me, I'm a genius on the spot. I need to cleanly move the leaves from point A to B. I need a contraption for this. Who's a genius? It's me. I'll get a piece of fabric attached to a string. You see what's back in my step? That's right, the spring. The leaves give the flavor without the fear of spreading. Now this is the greatest invention since the dawn of bedding. Now it can be enjoyed with any snack, sweet or salty. With this invention there is squat that is faulty. I look at my creation and I proudly wave my victory flag. It's like someone eating nuts, cause I just made the tea bag. The year is 1906, a more uncivilized time, where tea leaves were just infesting everywhere. The issue presenting itself was the leaves getting everywhere. Frustration of wanting to drink made it so unfair. All I want to do is enjoy the tasty water. Getting leaves in your teeth turns it to an enjoyment slaughter. Need someone to come along and fix this heinous blot. Then I thought, that's me, I'm a genius on the spot. I need to cleanly move the leaves from point A to B. I need a contraption for this. Who's a genius? It's me. I'll get a piece of fabric attached to a string. You see what's back in my step? That's right, the spring. The leaves give the flavor without the fear of spreading. Now this is the greatest invention since the dawn of bedding. Now it can be enjoyed with any snack, sweet or salty. With this invention there is squat that is faulty. I look at my creation and I proudly wave my victory flag. It's like someone eating nuts, cause I just made the tea bag. The year is 1906, a more uncivilized time, where tea leaves were just infesting everywhere. The issue presenting itself was the leaves getting everywhere. Frustration of wanting to drink made it so unfair. All I want to do is enjoy the tasty water. Getting leaves in your teeth turns it to an enjoyment slaughter. Need someone to come along and fix this heinous blot. Then I thought, that's me, I'm a genius on the spot. I need to cleanly move the leaves from point A to B. I need a contraption for this. Who's a genius? It's me. I'll get a piece of fabric attached to a string. You see what's back in my step? That's right, the spring. The leaves give the flavor without the fear of spreading. Now this is the greatest invention since the dawn of bedding. Now it can be enjoyed with any snack, sweet or salty. With this invention there is squat that is faulty. I look at my creation and I proudly wave my victory flag. It's like someone eating nuts, cause I just made the tea bag. The year is 1906, a more uncivilized time, where tea leaves were just infesting everywhere. The issue presenting itself was the leaves getting everywhere. Frustration of wanting to drink made it so unfair. All I want to do is enjoy the tasty water. Getting leaves in your teeth turns it to an enjoyment slaughter. Need someone to come along and fix this heinous blot. Then I thought, that's me, I'm a genius on the spot. I need to cleanly move the leaves from point A to B. I need a contraption for this. Who's a genius? It's me. I'll get a piece of fabric attached to a string. You see what's back in my step? That's right, the spring. The leaves give the flavor without the fear of spreading. Now this is the greatest invention since the dawn of bedding. Now it can be enjoyed.
Oops, wrong way. I keep forgetting not to put it on the chat thing. Yep, your face is frozen again.
Well done. Oh no. That's fun.
Welcome. Kai's face is frozen.
Welcome.
It's really good.
I'm waving, but you probably can't see it.
Yeah. It's really...
Oh, well.
It is the best face to be frozen onto.
Yeah, it's not bad. It makes me look like I'm a good old thinker.
Tell me if you need me to turn his volume up or anything. Let me know, guys. Also, hi, I'm back. I have a new charity. We are raising money for the Syrian refugees and their medical needs. Oh, you back?
Yeah, nodding and thumbs up to that.
Yeah, so,
Good. See how long that lasts.
yeah, we'll see. Anyway, Kai's gonna tell us this isn't 3 a.m. No, it's not 3 a.m.
Hello, Mash on Pizza. I know your name.
Yeah. It's Kai.
I've seen you around before.
Kai's gonna tell us some criminology story. Oh, it's because I normally present at 3 a.m. Yeah, well, I needed to be at a time that Kai could do it.
Yeah.
Which is when you guys are awake.
Yeah. It's a bank holiday today, so it's a public holiday in the UK, so it's like not like I got anything to do with the rest of my day.
Me every day.
Yeah, mood.
Also, I got shortbread
I say mood.
and tea.
Yeah. I have juice and sweets.
But welcome.
So we both got.
Welcome, Kai.
Yes, thank you for having me. Yes, thank you for having me. He's just trying to dig out a sweet from everywhere else.
Yeah, we're just having some afternoon tea. Both of us not in the afternoon.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's going to tell us some
not-
terrible crime stuff. That I have no idea.
Yeah,
I have no idea what it is.
Yeah. I mean, I live in England, but I'm from New Zealand, as you can tell by my accent. I moved to the UK when I was 18. I have a bachelor's degree in criminology and sociology, and I'm currently working on my master's in crime, violence, and prevention. So,
Hence why he's here.
I'm a stressed little boy. My speciality for my master's is I'm looking at the impact of COVID-19 on sex workers. So that's a very interesting topic. Yeah. So the stories that I'm doing today, I'm doing two stories today. I am doing the case of the first and only woman in New Zealand to receive the death penalty, which is Minnie Dean. And then the second case I'm going to do is the Parker Hume murder case, which was made famous in the 1994 film Heavenly Creatures, by Peter Jackson, if any of you had ever seen it. So that's the case I'm going to be talking about. Just a pre-warning for the second one. At the time that the crime happened in New Zealand, homosexuality was illegal and was looked very negatively upon. So elements of that will come up just as a pre-warning. No slurs that I've got in my quotes, but just warning you in advance.
Also, I give warning. I laugh when I'm uncomfortable. Yeah. So if I laugh, it's not because it's funny. I laugh when I'm uncomfortable.
Look, that I understand. It's a fair coping mechanism.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've literally written this script just because I'm like I need to have decent guidance. So this makes it sound so friggin' formal. So the story of New Zealand's first and only woman to receive the death penalty. Others have been convicted of crimes like murder that would lead to obviously being given the death penalty, because it was on the books from 1840 up until 1961, which is it's still very recent because both my parents were alive then.
Yeah.
And in New Zealand, the death penalty was always conducted by hanging. Later on, I'm going to be doing the Parker Hume case. Now, if they hadn't been minors, they would have been eligible for the death penalty because that crime had happened before 1961. But obviously, they were under 18, so they could not be considered for the death penalty in New Zealand. It definitely was different in America. So Minnie Dean was born Wilhelmina Dean, and her maiden name was McCulloch. She was born in Glenelg, Scotland, in 1844. Her parents were John McCulloch, and this was fun. Her mother was called Elizabeth Swan, which is the coolest name.
Isn't that? Wait, that's someone's name.
Johnny Depp, Parts of the Caribbean.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So I just saw that, and I'm like, that's so cool. Just because obviously back then, Elizabeth was a very standard name because it was the name, even though it was 1844, it was like the name of one of the queens. It was a very simple woman's name.
Sorry, I'll turn myself down.
It was great. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
But yeah, no. And then, so she had a sister, also called Elizabeth. And she had so her sisters were Elizabeth, Isabel, Christina, and Janet. All of them the last name McCulloch. Glenelg is Keira Knightley. Thank you. Glenelg is a town near Glasgow. It's also where Rose from the current season of RuPaul's Drag Race is from. Fun fact. Just weird little tidbits there. In 1857, her mother died in cancer, and we can guess she moved to New Zealand sometime after that. She spent some time in Australia, specifically Tasmania.
Well, that makes a lot
on the
of
journey
sense.
to New Zealand. Yeah, I'm assuming in Tasmania it was probably just a refuel, getting new supplies, dropping some convicts off, that kind of stuff. It's unknown specifically when she moved to New Zealand because there are different dates that say when she comes into New Zealand. We knew it was by the early 1860s, but there was like some other dates that said, oh, she was in Australia, like she had a child born in Tasmania in the 1860s. But someone also said that she was in New Zealand by the time that the child was born in Tasmania, so the dates are a little bit iffy. So it's roughly the 1860s. And she moved there to live with an aunt and originally settled in the Otago region in Southland, and she was one of the original first settlers there. When she moved to New Zealand, she already had two daughters, who, like I said, allegedly born in Tasmania in 1816, 1863. Just because, like I said, some people said that by 1862 she was living in New Zealand, which obviously couldn't happen if her daughter was born in Tasmania in 1863. So that tends to happen in records that are that old. You know, it's not very clear with a lot of things.
You should check My Heritage and see all the mixed up records there.
Yeah, it's quite big. So yeah, so she was believed to have already been widowed by her physician husband at that point, but there are no records of her ever being married. So her daughters could have potentially been born outside of wedlock, which would have been a huge no-no in those days, especially, I guess, as an immigrant. So her daughters were Isabel, who was born in 1863, and Alan, who was born in 1860. And Alan, for me, is a very modern name, so it's quite interesting seeing a name like that coming up in the 1860s, because I see it's quite a modern name. This is just, oh yeah, I probably should have done the trigger warning at the start. Child death, I forgot to mention that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, whoops, alright, we're there now. Yeah, so Alan, this is like a break in the continuity. Alan was married to a man named James Shepherd Milne, and she suffered from postpartum depression. So she drowned herself and her two children in 1882. Her two children, one of them was also Alan, and the eldest was John Henry. This is where it gets confusing.
Yeah.
Because Isabel obviously had children herself, and her eldest was also called John Henry. I'm assuming named after her nephew. So her children were John Henry, James, Thomas, Robert, Nellie, Annie, Alexander, Mary, William, and that's all her children. So she had a lot of kids, but she was married, so it wasn't as taboo to have a lot of kids. And I'm assuming at that stage as well, they would have been promoting having children in the colonies to kind of boost the white population there.
Yeah.
And other issues that come from that.
Completely know where you're going with that.
Today, yeah, just implying the bad stuff. So Minnie today has 25 living descendants living in New Zealand and Australia and the UK, including myself. So this is technically a family story.
Oh damn.
Yeah. This is my family history. Which is good fun. No glamoring. I do not want to change that word. So, like I said, not anything is known about the father of the two daughters, but Minnie did marry someone called Charles Dean in 1872, and he was an innkeeper. And obviously, 8 years later, her two adult children had already married and left the house. So, obviously, bit of an empty nest. They lived in a place called, origin story twist. Bloody Cruella de Villing it up in this.
Oh, it's
I'm not
so
going to spoil that
good.
film. Yeah. So
Yeah, no
together
one
they
knows.
lived
No one
in
knows what happens at the end of that film.
No, I know what happens at the end of the film, but it's like the start of the film was like, oh, this is an interesting villain origin story. So they lived in a place called Ettle Creek, which back then was a stop on the gold mining route. So there would have been plenty of people in need of inn services, obviously, like D&D, just a good old tavern on a very popular route. So obviously the gold rush did end at one point because, hence the term rush, and money became tight, so they moved
May
to
I
a
ask
town
a
called
question?
Winton. Yeah.
Because I don't know anything about New Zealand. Where was the gold rush in New Zealand? I have no fucking clue about this shit.
So it wasn't on, like, New Zealand doesn't have a Gold Coast like Australia does. It was in Southland. Well, that's the Gold Coast, but no, that's in Australia. Southland, Otago region was where the gold rush happened, and
Our gold rush is in Melbourne.
Yeah, see, that like it should. If it was on the Gold Coast, that would have been funny. I know it's called the Gold Coast because the golden beaches and the sun and stuff like that. But it was Central Otago, Southland, and there's still a bunch of places there now, like heritage museums where you can go and do gold panning and get like little vials full of gold flakes. I don't know.
That's cool.
I don't know the exact logistics of how that works, because there's a few places I know in the States where you can go like diamond mining and you get to keep the diamonds that you find, and some people actually do that as their job. But obviously the gold there isn't significant enough. I don't think there's been a big find in quite a few years, but there's probably still flakes in the water just because of the nature of gold. So
that's awesome though.
Yeah, it is pretty cool. The gold rush was a lot of the migrant workers were Chinese.
Same
to
here.
The gold rush, so they bought a lot of Chinese workers, and obviously now there's a decent, and in Australia there's a good Chinese diaspora living in the country now. Obviously,
it's
because
living
of it,
in Melbourne.
Living in Melbourne,
not in the country.
I mean, Melbourne and Sydney. Yeah, Melbourne. How's that lockdown going for you, or is it over yet?
That's still happening. Mikey's decided to become a mum plant. Maybe a plant mum.
A plant mum.
Yeah.
That's fun. I blurred out the three UK lockdowns. They're just a blur to me now. Because we're coming out of it now, so like I'm back at work. We still have to wear masks. Customers don't, because we're outside, which is such fun. Like, I'm vaccinated. They're like, I'm vaccinated, it's fine. I'm like, I don't care, I'm not. You can still shed the virus.
Yeah.
So like us staff have to be COVID tested twice a week, and we have to wear masks at all times when customers are around. Like, if it's before opening or after closing, we don't have to wear masks. But like when customers are about, we have to wear masks.
I'm so sorry, Mikey, that I brought it up.
I know, are you killing all the plants as well?
Because he posted on Instagram about his plant, and that he was growing a plant, and then it's dying. It's so funny.
Oh no. Well, that's your story for next week sorted then, I guess.
Yeah. My next story is the reason for Amber Alert, because I got to 300 followers.
Yes. I think I may have heard it on another true crime podcast.
And I
can't remember.
And I promise when I get to it, every time I get to a certain thing, I do a very important law story, like why something happened. They're always very dark, why laws change.
Oh, yeah, but it is an important story to say.
Yeah, so I like the reason why it happens, because I normally do unsolved ones, because then it's like oh, we need to get information out to do this kind of stuff. But if it's hey Ali, if it's if it's like welcome home Ali, if it's a
welcome home,
if it's like a special occasion like 300, I'll do something that is solved but like change the laws or something. And then for 500 we'll do the extraordinary circumstance case, which is like the Moby Dick one. Yeah,
that makes sense. No, that's good. Congrats on 300.
Thank you.
I'm almost at 100. I'm almost at 100, so I don't know what I'm going to do for that. Still just plodding away at it. So, when they moved to Winton, like going back to my notes, Charles became a farmer, which is just a common thing to do because, a lot of land in New Zealand and Australia, and you just do a farm because people need food. That's one of the things that you're always going to need people to work the land. And thank you for the shout out, Nightbot, and I guess
So
Miss
currently
Laney.
in the lead, even though he's
You're
on
gonna
the
have a
lead,
clip
took in
going.
Unwanted followed by Matt's Music House, the Marquise to Space, Smash on Pizza,
Took
Francie
in
Hesser, who
unwanted
is
children
here.
in
Eric
exchange
might
for
be
payment.
the
This is
Dovey, who
known
is
as
also
baby
here.
farming.
The
It was
Dovey is a
extremely
quizzing
common
genius,
in the
so we're going to
colonies
watch that rank slowly
and
rise.
in the
Plata, who
and
is here,
in
Edissaurus,
England and
Defund,
stuff,
Egg Boy,
because
Tink, Hypercannon, Haunted Bear, Gabby
poverty
Egg,
was a
another
big
Egg Boy.
problem,
There's two Egg
and
Boys. I really need to
contraception
change that.
wasn't really a
Danger
thing.
Bed,
Like, we
Bridie,
got taught in this is a tangent story. I went to a very, very, very religious school, and
Hey!
obviously in New Zealand, it's a legal requirement to teach contraceptive education. Like, they have to be not necessarily taught, but they have to be told that it's an option. So, like, the extent of my contraceptive sex ed was, you can go on the pill, talk to the doctor. If you're having sex, use a condom or a diaphragm. We got shown what they looked like, and that was the extent. That was it. And people are like, oh, that's so much more than I got. I'm like, yeah, but that's only because we legally had to be given it. If we didn't legally have to be given it, we wouldn't have been given it. Like,
Yeah.
I got given the sex talk at 16, like, by my dad.
I
And
got given it
that
by
was-
my mum at like 6.
Oh. My dad, like, my school ran a how to do the sex talk with your kids seminar when we were like 15, 16. And my dad gave me the sex talk in the car on the way to school. And I'm like, I'm 16. Because like in 16, that's the age in New Zealand you can legally consent,
Yeah.
age-wise. And yeah, no, but like the running joke at my school was that when you turn 16, because in New Zealand at 16 you can also legally buy a chainsaw. So the joke was that on your 16th birthday you get to go buy a chainsaw. Because obviously everyone's like, oh, you get to have sex now. So he just made fun of it with buying a chainsaw.
Yeah. I went to a Catholic school in Australia, and it's not legally required that you learn anything. But in public schools, they taught contraception and all that stuff. I didn't learn how to put a condom on someone until I was 21, and my roommate showed me. 21.
Okay, I have never done it. I don't know how to do it, but I'm
I get
assuming
it.
I could have a good guess. I guess. And yeah, the feeling boobs of cancer we got when we were like 8. Other fun things we got taught. We had what to do. We had like STI education, which wasn't the best. It was mostly focused on AIDS, and we got told like what are the options if your partner has. What are the options if your partner have AIDS? It's like abstaining from sex. That's a valid option. If you already have AIDS, that's not a problem. Using contraception. And then we were also told that if you really, really loved the person enough that you'd be willing to get AIDS, then you could have sex with them. And this was just before PrEP came out as well. So we were just sat there like in the room just like, is the teacher for real?
I think that
Like,
my second high school I went to, the one that I went with Mikey, I think we learnt a little bit about contraception, like the types you can get. But the first one we got nothing. We got like stupid videos about what the sexual organs are. But the one that I went to, the second one, it was like, okay, so you can get contraceptive jelly. Which I found the funniest fucking thing. Like, why would you use
jelly?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I don't.
Like, I know. I've never heard of this. Like, I know there's some people who sell sponges that you stick up your in between down there, and you like, and I'm like, use a condom.
Yeah, I know. I keep saying that. Why don't we just use condoms? But it's like, no, it's on the woman. It's always on the woman.
Yeah, no, it's like, and it's one of the, it's so frustrating because it's like, people, like, it's just like, they can only carry on average one baby a year because of how long it takes to make the child.
Yeah.
But the other partner could do one a day for a year. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And, like, I've known plenty of men who have procreated well too much. well too much. I know a guy who has had 5 kids within 3 years, and he does not look after any of them.
Yeah, that's a common trend. There's a guy at my uni he was like, by 21, he had 3 kids by the same woman. So it was fine because he was looking after them. But it was like, oh yeah, we had our first kid at 16. Like, for me, that's still quite young. But I guess, like,
my mum was 16 when she had me.
Plan for that. Yeah, obviously, sometimes you can never plan for that.
Yeah. Well.
But yeah.
Yeah, it's everyone in
we're getting very off topic.
I'll quickly add before you keep going.
Yeah.
Most of the people in my family have had kids before they were 18. I'm the only one that still hasn't had a kid, and I'm 27. I'm getting old.
Yeah, I thought. Yeah, no, my sister hasn't had. My sister and I, so my dad's the only one who doesn't have grandkids in the family, which is fine. I don't want them, and my sister can't have them. So yeah, Charles became a farmer, Minnie became a baby farmer. She took an unwanted children for payment, and then I made notes about not.
Is this the baby farming woman?
Yep.
You're related to the baby farming woman?
Yep. Yep. She's very well known.
I know who she is.
Yeah.
I watched a documentary all on her.
Mm-hmm.
So
she's my 3 times great-grandmother.
She's horrendous.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but she is.
It's a story and a half. Like, there's some twists and some turns, and I've got a photo that I need to send you as well to pop up on the stream. Actually, I will do that now before I forget.
I can just put her in between our heads.
She's not in the photo, but it is. You just remember this day.
Imagine her haunting you at night.
I mean, I live right by a cemetery, so I get other ghosts anyway.
Yeah.
Like, no, genuinely, like, right outside my flat, there are 2 cemeteries. We have, like, a general cemetery and a Jewish cemetery. So...
Yeah. You should come to Melbourne and
good.
go on the ghost tour where it's like... Ali Woo, you better make some kids. I wonder how far behind this fucking... the stream is.
I am just looking for the photo because it's on my Google Drive. Yeah. So, I just made notes. No. I'm trying to get onto my Google Drive. There it is. So, obviously, no contraception was being used. So, Minnie got the weekly payments or one lump sum to look after the kid.
Yeah.
She had up to 9 young people in her care at one time. And as I said previously, baby farming was very popular in the colonies and the UK.
Yeah.
For this reason. If I can share this photo with you, because it's on my Google Drive, it's not on my actual phone. In the time that Minnie was about, the infant mortality rate in New Zealand was really, really high.
Yeah.
It was 80 to 100 infant deaths per 1,000 colonies. And that was mostly down to just not having decent, hygiene for the mother or for the child even. They didn't believe babies felt pain until very recently,
Yeah.
So...
what the fuck did they... Oh, hey, Mac. What the fuck did they think?
Mac, hello.
Oh, babies don't feel pain. Who the fuck thinks babies don't feel pain?
Yeah, I think it was especially worse for babies of colour.
Yeah, no, that was...
It would have been worse.
We're stupid.
We are.
We're a dumb species.
I mean, it's like, we're saying that as someone who lives in Melbourne who's recently just had to go back into a lockdown, and someone in New Zealand, someone in England who is just having to, deal with the UK public.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, babies.
Who are just not the brightest bunch.
I just like what Mac just said. Yeah, babies who infamously never make noises of displeasure.
Send.
Yeah.
Hopefully that link works. Let me know if you can get into that link.
Yeah, I'll have a
because that's a photo I'd like you to throw up at some point. And then I'll explain the photo. So obviously a lot of the children did pass away in her care because, like I said, if a child had gotten sick,
I just request access then.
they wouldn't. Okay, Dunker, I give you access. Okay, let's see if I can do this.
Old man noises.
Really should have sorted this sooner.
That's fine.
I'll do it by my emails. I'm like trying to do 5 things at once.
Well, yes, that's streaming. 5 things at once.
Yeah, it's fun. I like it. Let me grant you access. Yeah. Hopefully that worked.
Yay, got it.
Perfect. Yeah. Just tell me when you throw it up and I'll talk about the photo.
Working on it.
So, yeah, obviously the first child that was recorded to have passed away.
I don't want to make any comments on this. Because if I make comments on it, I'm going to regret it.
Well, it's a family photo, so, like, everyone in that photo is dead, so...
But I was going to say it's cute. And I don't want to make...
You know, it's cute, so have you put it up on the... Tell me when you've put it up on the screen and I'll explain it.
I'm getting a new window capture, which could evidently crash the stream. Yeah, so the first child died in 1889. The 6-month-old child died of convulsions. There we go. So the photo. So the one on my left, so the woman in the photo, so that's Minnie's daughter, so that's Isabel. The gentleman with the baby on the lap, that's John Henry. The baby on the lap is my Auntie Diana, and the gentleman in the middle is my grandfather, who I think I look a little bit like. Yeah.
So this photo would have been taken between 1945 and 1949, because Diane was born in 1945 and Isabel died in 1949. So this photo probably is 1946, maybe, just for idea of time and content. And this photo would have been taken in New Zealand. So yeah, that's Minnie's daughter, great grandson, great great granddaughter. Left to right.
That's cool. That's just like very historic. Like, take off your... Don't tell him to take off his glasses, Ellie. Jesus Christ. He's trying to read notes. And also, he's frozen. Yeah. It has a feeling. Oops. Yeah, you broke him. Just trying to get rid of some internet. Maybe he'll come back. Does he come back? Nope, he's gone. Oh, he's back.
Oh, yeah, there we go. He's back. Yay.
He disappeared for a second. It's fine.
No, that's fine. I heard it because I've got my headphones in. I heard the disconnecting sound happen, so I knew that I disconnected.
Okay. We didn't hear it disconnect at all. It was just...
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, you just
sometimes...
Sorry.
Discord does that sometimes.
Okay.
It's fine, yeah. So, yeah, I'll start the sentence again. In March 1889, 6-month-old child died of convulsions. October 1889, 6-week-old baby passed away of cardiovascular and respiratory ailments, and a boy allegedly drowned in her care in 1894, and she hid the body in her garden, which naturally just aroused further suspicions.
Yeah, just hide it in your garden.
Yeah, well, I said this is honestly very fair, because she was would have been an older woman back then. She was Scottish, and she was considered a witch because she knew about midwifery and she knew about the woman's body. And then, of course, children were dying, which is another witch thing. So a coroner's inquest was held, obviously, and Dean was initially not found responsible for the deaths due to just generally poor hygiene standards, even at childbirth herself. And I said, which is again is a fair judgment because, you know, hysteria was still an illness and they still used leeches back then. And then I also said, you know, they believe babies can feel pain, so that it was also very fair that looking after women at birth probably was like, oh, you're not feeling pain, you're a woman, deal with it. And I said, especially in the colonies that didn't have the luxuries of living in the dirty, dirty England. Diseases were rampant. It was not fun. So the local community just didn't trust Minnie, naturally, because babies just kept dying. And then in the public mind, this linked her to the infanticide cases in baby farming that we'd seen in the United Kingdom and Australia.
Yeah.
This is one of the fun stories. Sarcastic. In 1895, Dean was observed boarding a train carrying a young baby in a hat box, but observed leading the same train with only the hat box. As the porters on the railway later testified. The object was suspiciously heavy for a hat box. Her garden was dug up, and the 3 bodies, 2 babies and a young boy, aged estimated to be about 3 years old, was uncovered. And then an inquest found that the one child, Eva, had died of suffocation, and one later identified as 1-year-old Dorothy Edith Carter had died of an overdose on laudanum, Laudanum, which was a sedative that they used on children back then.
Yeah.
The cause of death for the 3rd child was not determined, and Dean was charged without murder. Although she claimed to have cared for 28 children in her time, of these 5 were in good health when her establishment was raided. 6 had died whilst under her care, 1 had been reclaimed by the parents, and the others were unaccounted for, which didn't really help her case.
No.
During her trial, this is where I feel like the New Zealand and Australian sense of humour really shines. Dolls in small hat boxes were reportedly sold as souvenirs, and she became the most hated woman in New Zealand. Her husband was not given the death penalty. Her crimes led to the belated passage of the Child Welfare Legislation Act in New Zealand, the Infant Life Protection Act of 1893, the Infant Protection Act of 1896, and she was hung in Invercargill on the 12th of August 1895 and buried in an unmarked grave in Winton, and she was only given a marked grave this century by some local members of the community. There's been several songs written about her, and she's known as like a local boogeyman down there. So like if you're an unruly child down in Southend, the parents threaten that Minnie Dean will come and take you away, because New Zealand just be like that.
Scare the shit out of the children.
By threatening to have them
murdered
by a baby farmer.
That's fucked.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? Like,
yeah. So yeah, that's
wasn't her motive though? Wasn't her motive though? Like she was killing them straight away, but still collecting money from the parents.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. Because a lot of the time, if you get a lump payment, because obviously it would have been not that, it wouldn't have, like, by their standards, it wouldn't have been that much, and there was only probably a few pennies or a few pence a week back then, just because of the way money was. But obviously, if your child, fell pregnant out of wedlock at 16, 17, a baby farmer was a quick way to get rid of the child, because you didn't have to go through the official adoptions, because then it's also like, not back then, but in the second story, the wash houses were still being used in the 1950s and the 1960s in New Zealand. So, it would have been an easier way to get rid of the child without having to subject your child to that.
Yeah, and it's just like, you're trying to protect your child, but in the same way, it's like there's a forgotten child in...
Yeah,
and it's just... It's so sad. It is so sad.
It's very, very sad. But yeah, that's one of my family history stories.
Which is insane.
And then, it's mental. And then the second story that I'm doing, and I wrote all this up last night, is the Parker Hume murder case, which is in my home city of Christchurch, New Zealand. And this one was 1954. So almost 100 years later. So this is just me kind of showing the very start of kind of the death penalty in New Zealand with a female killer, and then the later part of the thing. So it's just interesting to see the contrast between the two stories. So if you've ever seen the film Heavenly Creatures, it stars Melanie Lynskey and Kate Winslet. It was Kate Winslet's first acting job. Melanie Lynskey, her niece, went to school with me. So like I said, New Zealand's very small.
It's so
I'm linked
small.
to a lot of... It's so cool. Like, if any of you know the Bain murder cases of Dunedin of 1994, he's married to one of my teachers. No, yeah, he's married to one of my teachers.
Jesus
So,
Christ.
and they live in Australia now. Like,
No.
anyway, New Zealand's fun. So Pauline Parker, Juliet were school friends. So Pauline Yvonne Parker, aka Pauline Reaper. There's two names that she's known as. The reason for that I'll explain later. She was born on the 26th of May, 1938, and she met Juliet Hume, who was born in London. When they were both in their early teens at Christchurch Girls High School. It's a school that's still around today. It's one of the oldest schools in the city. Both the girls were very sickly as young children. So Juliet had pneumonia, so the parents moved them from the UK to New Zealand for the warmer weather, because they believed that would have helped her body not being subjected to the cold dampness all the time, so her pneumonia wouldn't keep coming back.
Yeah.
And oh no, it wasn't pneumonia. Sorry, it was tuberculosis. My mistake.
I'm
getting in my head.
Yeah.
Yeah, not so tuberculosis. Sorry. And Parker had osteomyelitis. Can never pronounce that word. Yeah.
Something with the bones.
And they bonded. Yeah, they bonded over that fact that they were both ill children and spent a lot of time in hospital, and they kind of found solidarity in that, which is quite nice. They were from very different ends of the spectrum. So Parker was from a typical working class family. Her parents had extra money by bringing in boarders, by like local lodgers that stayed in their house. And Hume's father was the rector of Canterbury University and a professor. So they were very, very well off. So they were completely two different ends of the spectrum. The Parker House still stands today, and you can visit it in Christchurch. It's still on the Island Fields. I've been there a couple of times myself, just about, because you can walk past it. It's a museum now. But, yeah, like it still stands today. You can visit. So Pauline had a sister, Wendy. They were very, very close throughout their childhood. They would regularly visit the East Belt Methodist Church, and their family wasn't particularly religious. And those children would also do day trips organised by the church. Honestly, back then, it was just a social thing, church, more than anything else. Those who knew Pauline described her as a mature, bright, and imaginative writer, and she had a fond interest in the art, writing, and talented in sculpting clay. So she started at Christchurch Girls High School in 1952 at the age of 12 and placed in the top classes. Even though she had been sick and hospitalised, she'd been given tutoring in order to help her catch up. So she was obviously well above the standard due to this as well. Juliet was born in October 1938 in Blackheath, which is a southeast district in London. And her mother was Hilda Marion Reevely, and her father was a scientist called Henry Hume. Which is very interesting that, like, the HH, they didn't give her a, like, Henrietta name. Yeah. Or something like that. So when Juliet was born, he was, her father was one of the great minds behind the creation of the H-bomb. He was a chief assistant at the Royal Observatory, so the family was very, very, very well off. In 1944, Juliet contracted bronchitis, developed into severe pneumonia, and they believed that she would not survive the illness. So obviously parents concerned with the health withdrew her from school and kept her housebound. And then when she was 8, she contracted pneumonia once more. She survived. And the doctors recommended that she be sent to the Bahamas, a colony then and now. It believed that the woman would help her recover, and she was there for just over a year.
So it was pneumonia.
So she never really grew. Yeah, it was pneumonia. Never really with her kids. Never with her parents either.
Yeah.
And then they wanted people to move to the British Commonwealth in 1947, so just after the war with, obviously, and they wanted someone to be the rector of the Canterbury University, and her father applied for that job, got the job, and they moved to New Zealand in August of 1948, and then in 1952, Juliet began her education at Christchurch Girls High School. They'd originally enrolled her at a private school, but they figured she'd be better in the more busier environment. Knowing the area at the time, she would have been enrolled in either the Catholic school, which was Marian College, or she would have been at St Margaret's or Rangiruru, because Rangiruru and St Margaret's are the girls-only private schools that cater to women of that age, and Marian College is just the Catholic school. So she probably would have been enrolled in one of those schools. That's local knowledge for you. And they obviously, together, the girls bonded and they developed a wild fantasy world together. They wrote plays, stories, and poems. This naturally concerned both of the parents. Both the families continued to allow the girls to see each other, and Pauline was invited to stay at Juliet's house in Ireland for overnight stays and vacations. And then when they were apart, Juliet became withdrawn and ill when Pauline wasn't around. So they obviously developed a very deep bond. And then the family reported that they were happier when they were together, hanging out, playing, writing, just generally being together. And they enjoyed that a lot because it meant that Juliet was spending more time outside in the sun, which obviously they believed would help her illness. However, Juliet developed TB again and was sent to a sanatorium to recover. And during this time, Pauline was loyal, would visit her whenever possible and just give her as much support as she could. In 1953, Pauline had not been invited to go over to Ireland during the summer holidays that they had in the previous years. A year later, Hume's parents separated because her mother had been having an affair, problems with the board, the father had been forced to resign from his position at the university, and the family planned to return to England because of this, but Juliet was going to be sent to live with relatives in South Africa for her health because it was a lot warmer there.
Yeah.
The girls obviously wanted to go together because they were very much so close. They believed that Juliet's family would allow them to do this. The only obstacle they saw was Pauline's mother, and they decided to murder her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, they decided to murder her. And then the plan was to move to South Africa together and then go to New York City or Hollywood in order to get their works published because they believed that they were good enough in order to become films or TV series and stuff. So from the diaries of Pauline, it was that she had a quite close friendship with Juliet's mother, and that they believed that the Hume family would support their decision to move together. And it was known that when they announced that Juliet's family were going to be moving, Honora, Pauline's mother, was very happy that the relationship was going to be broken up because they thought it was dangerous. So this is the notes that I said. The relationship was very close, and they believed it was potentially homosexual, even though both girls have denied this. And back then, it was considered a mental illness, and like I said, it had been a huge no-no at the time. Honora, so Pauline's mother, had expressed on numerous occasions that she was concerned about the girls' friendship and had at one stage taken Pauline to see a psychiatrist, and she wanted just to check on Pauline's mental state. After that, Pauline was withdrawn from the school and sent to a commercial college or like a technical college where she was learning to become receptionist, secretary, learning how to type, more practical skills for a young lady trying to get a job. And then on June 22nd, 1954, Honora joined the girls on a walk through Victoria Park. They bludgeoned Honora with a half brick and a sock, and then after they did so, they ran back to the tea rooms covered in blood back to the owners where they had just had tea and pleaded for help, saying that her mother Honora had fallen. However, the lacerations in the body and the discovery of the murder weapon forced the story that the girls had to kind of fall apart. And then evidence was also found in Pauline's diary to confirm that they had actually planned this murder. Pauline was 16 and Juliet was 15 years and 10 months at this time, so they were still very young when this happened. So during the trial, it discovered that Pauline's parents, Honora and Herbert, had never been married. And I said this fact was just interesting because back then, I said the unwed mothers' homes were still in use. So, and it was around the time when Pauline was born. So it was just very interesting that the parents were unmarried because, again, that would have been hugely taboo back then. But they lived together like a married couple, so they were kind of de facto married, I guess. They were both found guilty of murder and sentenced to 5 years in jail, which seems like a very small amount of time. Like, it's an absolute teeny amount of time.
Seems
but then again, they weren't
okay, though, because they are children.
Yeah, they are minors, exactly. They're minors. That's one of the things that we've been debating about in one of my classes is about if young people can really understand what they're doing, because the UK, obviously the most famous case is the James Bulger case, and those boys were very young when that happened. And it's like, do they truly understand what's going on and what's happening? Do they really understand death? Like, they can understand they can, obviously young children can understand death as a permanent end of life, but it's like, do they really understand the consequences of taking a life? So there's a huge debate about that at the moment because of the age of criminality in the UK being very low, compared to the rest of the world, compared to the rest of Europe even.
In Australia, it's 14, I think it is.
Yeah, I think in the UK it's like 10 because of the James Bulger cases.
You know.
Like, yeah. So obviously they're not going to be sent to prison. So there's like secure children's homes that they can get sent to. But the issue with secure children's homes is they're not just used for young children who have been accused of crimes. They're also used for like chronic runaways, children with other behavioural issues. So it's a huge, and obviously the staff are generally only paid like minimum wage, not very well trained. So there's huge problems in regards to child protection of that. They have secure training facilities, which are kind of like a step in between that and a prison, where there's more routine for the kids. You know, they're still given education, still given training. It's just a little bit more rigid. And then there's, of course, youth detention facilities, which are just, it's prison pretty much, but obviously not prison. It's just young offenders institutes.
And then there's the problem of, like, you look at what happened with the whole, what's it called? Roundabout Bridge or whatever, the Dr. Phil thing. And, like...
Oh, yeah, yeah, like that, the Roundabout Ranch, that just seems like it is really horrible, because all the people who have been there and come out, like the Cash Me Outside girl and Paris Hilton, have all just landed it. And Dr. Phil's not...
Paris Hilton was a different one.
Yeah.
She was from a different
similar
youth. Yeah, it's just saying that it's a systemic thing. It's not just one one place. It's a systemic problem.
It's just like it's one of the things that we've learned in criminology, that those kind of discipline boot camps just straight up do not work. And the thing is as well that it's very, very hard, because I'm doing an essay on this at the moment, it's very hard to find a protection system that actually works, because it's so hard to research the impacts of things on minors just due to the fact that they're minors. So it's really hard to investigate it, because there's a lot of child protection issues. Obviously, you have to get the consent from the parent or the guardian. There's just so much paperwork you have to do in order to investigate young people. So it's just really hard to research it. And kids are kids. They're all going to be so different. So what might work for one might not work for another. So we have to make a proposal of a new system that we believe will help reduce youth crime. So what I'm doing is I am doing a mentoring scheme, because mentoring schemes are the only ones that have been proven to actually have a decent impact. And I'm doing like a tailored mentoring. So if the young person has an interest in, say, cooking, they get given a mentor from the community that's experienced in working with kids and also knows how to cook, and we'll literally just spend time with them, teaching them how to cook on like a one-to-one environment as a way to kind of help them and engage the kid. Because of course, if you're making them sit in a classroom and listen to lectures, they're not going to listen.
No.
But if it's something that the kid's actually interested in, they're going to want to be engaged. Especially if they're like, oh yeah, I really like cars. Just bring them an old car and get them to work on the old car with them, because then they're going to have a skill, a trade that they can take into a career, and they're going to be interested in what they're learning because it's something they're passionate about.
It's also a matter of teaching them that not all adults are horrible, because if they're coming from a bad background, then they're going to have a lack of trust for people, and you've got to teach them that they've got there are good people.
And it's like, that's why I was like, in my thing, I'm very much using this as a way to get the police out of it, because the police don't help. Because like near me, on the way to one of my nearby shops, there's a good few hundred meters that are completely blocked off by police tape because something happened there on Thursday night, and there's been police stationed there for like 4 days, so no one's been able to get in and out of the businesses there. I don't know what happened, because when I got there, I had just seen the tail end of it. People were just giving evidence to the cops and stuff, and it's like, of course, because I live in South London, of course young people aren't going to trust the cops, you know what I mean? Like, they're not going to trust the cops, they're not going to trust authority, and you need to show them that, hey, there are authority figures that you can trust. And then I've also pointed out that obviously these professionals can't do everything, that when necessary they'll be able to signpost young people to further services that they might need, that obviously if they need therapy or if they need like help with benefits that the parents might be having, you know, obviously they can then get signposted onto that from a professional that's not going to judge the kid for the way that they act. Because I when I was in Scouts, there was a young girl in our troop. She was labelled as troubled, so everywhere she went, she had to have an adult with her.
My phone's going off. Hold
so
on.
Of course. Oh.
There we go. It's an alarm. Sorry. I'm back. I'm back.
Welcome back. I just saw you pop up on the screen. No, yeah. So it was just like she was this lovely. I don't know where she is now because I can't even remember her name. But she was this lovely, bright, smart girl. But because she was a foster kid.
Yeah.
I remember, me and my mum bumped into her once at the shops with her foster mother, and I saw a completely different girl. She was happy. She was bright. She was clinging on to the foster mother.
Yeah.
Because the foster mother had taken her to the shops to buy her some posters for her walls. Something just as simple as having like a Barbie poster on the wall or whatever, like it was probably Miley Cyrus, because Miley Cyrus and Hannah Montana was really big back then. Something as simple as that made her the happiest girl in the world. And some people just need that, and obviously kids just need that information and that support.
Yeah. It's just a matter of just giving them love, and it's just like unconditional too.
Respect, just straight up respect, just respecting them as humans.
It's just it's just like something that I was like taught is that when I was a kid, I was told you have to earn our respect by my family.
Yeah.
And that's something that as I'm gotten older, it's like, no, that's not how it is. You are respected. You should.
I give everyone for me, I give everyone the same baseline of respect, which is like calling them by their name, respecting their pronouns, respecting any boundaries that they set, stuff like that. And that's what I respect. And then some other people get more, but they'll never get less than that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that's the thing. Like, you give everyone respect.
Like, there's some people at my work that I don't get along with because they have made racist, sexist, and homophobic remarks, but I still don't disrespect them. I still am polite to them, and I'm still civil to them, mainly because it's work and it makes it a hell of a lot easier. But they're not gonna get more than the basics. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's. Why is
chat is going off?
Slaying is Rick-rolling everyone. It's fine. It's like Slaying's my the mod that's always here, and Slaying and Jazz are like the two mod, but he is the Chaos mod, and he is also like my brother. So yeah. No. When Demi was in Lena's 24-hour stream, I Rick-rolled her 3 times, and it was the most beautiful thing. Oh, and now she just doesn't trust me. Like, anytime I send a link in the chat, she's like, Kai, I'm not opening that. I'm not opening that. It's very, very funny. It is very funny.
Yeah. So, obviously, both girls were found guilty of murder, sentenced to 5 years in jail, not considered for the death penalty. Their trial, like many, was well attended by the public due to the fact of the sheer brutality of it, their age, their perceived homosexuality, and the fact that they were both young girls. Which is, I chose these as well because obviously female criminality is still very rare. Like in the UK, there's like 86 to 88,000 men in prison, give or take. That's including youth numbers, and at the moment it's at the lower end. Like I think it's like 84 now because of COVID. They've let a lot of people out. But for women, it's never higher than 4,000.
The thing is, though, like,
that's a huge
violent offenders don't tend to be female.
Yeah, and another thing as well is if female offending is also like, they have to be looking after, they're tended more to give community services rather than custodial services because they are, especially if they've got kids. If a woman has kids and a man has kids, the woman's obviously more likely to be given the custody, so of course they're more likely to be able to do a community sentence.
Not in Australia.
For a crime that a man might. Oh, huh. Yeah, there's interesting. Yeah, I know, just because that's one of the problems over here. Oh, Ladavi. Hello, I know that name.
Yeah.
Welcome in, mate.
Welcome.
I know Ladavi from I know Ladavi from another stream.
Yeah.
Ladavi is insanely smart. Quiz genius.
But in Australia, we actually have this very bad problem of what's it called? I'm having a brain issue, fog. Yeah, he is squinting. Your camera's frozen on you squinting. It looks really funny.
Oh no.
And no, because when you have when you get locked, when you go to jail, females are more likely not to get bail. And we've got we have a really bad issue with females not getting bail.
Do you have cash bail in Australia, or is it just behavioural bail?
I'm not sure.
No, because do you have to pay cash in order to be released on bail, or is it just based upon risk factors? Or do you not know?
I think it's based upon risk factors.
Okay, then it's the same as the UK then, because
and money maybe. I don't know. I always thought it was based upon risk factors, but then I started thinking maybe it's money.
Because I know America has a cash bail system. That's why I asked. Because it's in the UK, if you're obviously not deemed a risk before trial, you're let out on bail, conditional bail. So obviously, if you fuck up, you're going to go straight back to jail.
Me googling.
Same with probation. Yeah, same with probation. One of the things about the UK that tends to surprise people is that if generally, say for example, you get given a 7-year sentence, generally you're going to spend half in jail, half in the community if you've got good behaviour. But generally, if you're well behaved in prison, so 7 years is the max amount for drugs, for example. That's why I used it. So if you're caught, selling drugs, the max you can get is 7 years. It depends on the amount that you've got. Obviously, possession and selling is 7. I think distribution's a little bit more.
I've got a thing for New South Wales. It says if you are charged with an offence, police may or may not arrest you. The police do arrest you. They will take you back to police station for charging. Police have to decide whether or not they will let you go. They can release you on bail. Bail means you being allowed to go free in relation to the offence you are charged with. It doesn't say anything about money.
Then probably no cash bail then, which is good, because the cash bail system is horribly racist. Because you can obviously get loans for it, and those loans are predatory. It's sad.
Everything about the system is racist. I think my biggest issue with our system is that we don't have legal. We don't have the right to legal aid, like other countries do. We have legal.
I'm assuming there's charities that support that.
We
have charities that offer.
We have legal aid, but you have to be under the line of poverty to get it. Which is pretty bad.
Yeah, because it's also the thing about under the line of poverty is it's variable for location, age, household, race, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, a lot of people in my family, we don't have example, I know someone who went through a court case and they were not able to get legal aid and they were homeless.
Yeah, Jesus.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's just a matter of it's confusing. I don't understand what they want.
No, that's fair. Yeah. Back to the story, because we both got distracted, and that's fine.
Yeah.
So both of the girls.
You there? And he's gone again. Oh, hey, chat. How's it going? I just like that I'm here with his squinty face. And he's just gone.
We're back.
Are you back?
Yeah, I think I am.
Well, I just see
Okay.
I see a grey swear.
That's alright, I think I'm back. So yeah, they were both sentenced to indefinite imprisonment, which was still used in the UK till ridiculously recently, to the point that there are still some young people, still some people who are in prison in the UK today who have been given an indefinite sentence, which means they don't know when they're going to get released. There's a gentleman on my course who only recently got out of jail, and he wasn't on indefinite release form. His was drug related, I think. I've obviously not asked him about it, but he was in jail for like 14, 15 years, and he was in a high class. He was in the most secure prison, max security prison, and he spent a lot of time in Colombia, and he knows a lot of drug dealers in Colombia because he talks about it all the time. So I was feeling that he was a drug trafficker.
I'm kind of when talking to that guy. That sounds like I'm someone who's just like fascinated by.
He's fascinating.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by the drug world. Like not in like a terrible. You say no racism, homophobia, or sexism. What can we talk about then? I don't know. Whatever you want. Anyway, so but yeah, I'm just fascinated by the whole drug world. Like I just think it's very like, I don't know, like, because they just made up their own kind of law.
Yeah, they did. It is interesting. So yeah, after they were released, they were told never to contact each other again. However, this is debated because obviously the media is like there was a no contact order. The girls said there wasn't a no contact order. So once again, very different things. They took new names upon release, which is pretty common with juvenile offenders. It's obviously just to protect their new identity. And I don't know if you know about the Canadian case of the two sisters who killed their mother.
Yes. In the bathtub?
Yeah. So I use that as an example of another story where young people had been released from prison and given new names. So just because I'm assuming people know that one. So Pauline Parker's new identity is Hilary Nathan. So she's in the UK now. And she became a devout Catholic despite rejecting Christianity as a child, creating her own saints to worship. And she has since expressed remorse for killing her mother. Juliet Hume spent time in England and the United States, later settling in England, and she became a successful historical detective novelist. Under her new name of Anne Perry, she now lives in Scotland and converted to Mormonism. And it's very interesting that both the girls are now living in the UK and joined religious movements after their childhood. And I said both the girls have since denied that the nature of their relationship was homosexual. I said it's a very important case because it addresses the historic issues of the criminalisation of homosexuality, which still has impact in New Zealand today, because my grandfather was actually arrested for homosexuality in the 70s. He passed away in 1968 without an official pardon. They were only given a pardon, I think, in like the last 5 or so years, and given it to have the option scrubbed from the records. I think it was after 2015, because it was after I moved to the UK, so it was still over the last at least 7 years that this has been allowed. So that's just showing, like, you know, how problematic that issue still is today.
Yeah, as I said to you before stream, Tasmania didn't legalize it until 1996. Which
is the year I was born. It's far too recent. Mm-hmm. Like it's the same thing with Section 28 in the UK, which was only repealed in 2003. So those of you not in the UK, Section 28 banned the promotion of homosexuality in schools. So it was a Thatcher thing. And obviously, having it only been repealed in 2003, I was in school in 2003, obviously in New Zealand, not the UK. But, you know, there's generations of older gay people who were never introduced to the concept of being gay, never being allowed. Like if you said to a teacher, I'm gay, the teacher couldn't do anything. They couldn't support you. They couldn't offer you advice or anything. They just had to say, I'm not allowed to talk about that. Like that was the extent of it, because coming out of like the satanic panic as well. So obviously, there's people of my age now who were in school kind of as it ended. Obviously the curriculum hasn't caught up, you know, only very recently has LGBT education been put on the curriculum. Parents are protesting against it. It's optional in most places, so parents can opt out of their kids having LGBT education in the schools. I remember having a fight with someone in uni over this because they're like, I don't want my kids to be introduced to him. And I literally turned around to them and said, They're not going to be showing them gay fucking porn. Like, they're just going to be teaching them about how to have safe sex and removing gender from it. So they're pretty much going to be saying, if you have a penis and you need to wear a condom, this is what you do. So they're not going to be promoting homosexuality. They're literally just going to be making it more open and fair.
Yeah.
So, and that was 2 years ago. You know what I mean? So, like, it's still a problem today. Like, up until very recently, like, don't ask, don't tell. You know, if you were like, trans people weren't allowed to work as teachers up until very recently. Of the people I know who are trans and the teachers, they're not out at their schools. They're completely in the closet just because they could lose their job over it. Because if the school finds out, or like the school will probably be okay with it, but if not teachers, if like community members find out, it would immediately be a witch hunt.
Yeah.
You know, so a lot of teachers are still forced to be in the closet in 2021. You know what I mean?
Especially in like religious schools.
Yeah, well, all schools technically, because the state religion of the UK is Church of England, all schools are religious schools, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I always forget about that.
Yeah, so like obviously, in the UK they have to teach religion, but it's not like how I'm assuming you and I were taught religion, where you were just taught about Christianity or Catholicism.
That's amazing.
Like, they do have what?
Ladavi, I think his name is. Obviously teaching
Yeah.
That comment's amazing.
Yeah. I said Ladavi was one of the smart ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
My brother, though, because my auntie, she is a lesbian. And when my mum told my brother when he was probably about 5 that my auntie likes to date other women. And he went, okay, I'm just going to play. He didn't give a fuck.
Yeah, exactly. That's how kids are. Like, they don't care. It's great.
Doesn't involve me.
Don't give a fuck.
Don't give a fuck.
Especially at that age. It sounds really bad. Kids at that age are so self-centered. But that's because, that's because they just are like that, because they've got the idea, they've only just started to understand the idea of self. They've only, they haven't really got the concept of other people to share, which is fine because they're 5. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't care if they're self-centered. They can be self-centered as they want. They're children.
Exactly. So what I've done now is I have done, because I more do like social criminology. Well, technically the term for what I'm going into is, because I'm looking at LGBT and sex work criminology. There's a term for that, and it's technically still a slur. Starts with Q, so I'm not going to say it, but that's the official term for it, is bleep criminology.
No, that's not a slur.
Just checking, because over here some people aren't comfortable with it. So I use it. Obviously, if you say it's not a slur, I'll say it. So yeah, queer criminology. But a lot of people over here, a lot of the older LGBT folks over here still don't like it. And by older, I mean people over 25, because it's only people over 25, people who remember Section 28 being in schools, are the ones who have a problem with it, which is fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I said for the Parker Hume case, that they were a victim of strain theory, which is where an individual acts under strain, they act out criminally.
Yeah.
So it was formed in 1992 by Robert Agnew, and he noted the difference between how men and women act under it, which is important. It was based upon Robert Merton's strain theory, but Agnew criticised Merton because Merton's strain theory only looked at financial crimes, and Agnew's was a more diverse to explain crimes in general. The theory of general strain theory recognises that people in society are placed under several different forms of stress. Depending on the stress they encounter, there is a greater likelihood that the individual may choose to commit a crime, which is what they happened. So obviously, according to Agnew, for this Parker Hume specifically, when there's an inability to achieve a goal that contains a positive value stimuli for them, they'll act out criminally. So for them, that was staying together. So they weren't able to achieve this goal that brought them joy. When there was a threat to remove of the stimuli that was positive for them, that was the threat of being torn apart. And then when there is a threat presented to an individual which involves stimuli with noxious or negative views, for them, that was being torn apart. So for them, they had a lot going against them that could have led towards the criminality.
Yeah.
And then for women specifically, it's because they're more concerned with creating close bonds, which they had, and maintaining their relationship, which they wanted to do. And because the strain didn't involve material items necessarily, lower risk for committing violent crime or a property crime. Women are more likely to face discrimination and other forms of negative treatment, such as high levels of demand from family members. Obviously, back then, that would have been get married, have a husband, have kids, and they just wanted to focus on their relationship. That was also potentially homosexual in nature, which was frowned upon back then. So they had huge amount of strengths coming on them from society. Behaviours are obviously societally restricted, once again being a woman, especially in the 50s, and the failure to achieve those goals, which they perceived their goal was staying together, and they were failing to achieve that by being torn apart, which led to criminality. And a quote that stuck out to me was that I believe that, they faced negative treatment such as discrimination, high demand from family, and restrictive behavior, and they would have, like I said, they would have both experienced that. So I also believe that strain theory can explain a lot of criminality.
Yeah.
Just because if you look at someone who's like shoplifting, it's because they can't afford to eat, which is the presentation of a negative stimuli, and then the removal of a positive stimuli, they might have, lost their house. So it's one of the ones that's also quite well researched. So it's quite well worth to read.
Yeah, there was
obviously from.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I'm moving on to many here anyway. So
I had an old therapist who used to discuss this kind of stuff with me. Back at my old university in Queensland, I used to talk to her, and she used to say that most crimes are committed when someone is under stress, and they either lash out at other things or they lash out at themselves.
Or society.
Yeah, other things like society or, grabbing thing, like they shoplift, they all that stuff. So they're lashing out because they're having stresses, or they hurt themselves. Anxiety happens in many different ways. So she has the theory that it's anxiety that causes a lot of things.
Yeah, and I would agree with her there. So that's what I believe as, someone who's running into a master's head on. And then obviously I said for many it's a lot harder to work out if there was like a strain or some kind of criminology that caused it. Mostly because back then criminology was very racist and very sexist. I mean, they still used phonology back then.
Like her husband didn't get arrested.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think he got arrested, but he wasn't charged. So there's little things like that going on. And then so I spoke about the positive school of Cesar Lombroso, which is a theory that takes an individual's characteristics and behavior that make them up. So they believe was a genetic disposition. So that was a very common theory back then, that they were born criminals and some are not. So it was based upon stuff biological, based upon the size of your nose, your stature, your height. If you could pick things up with it was very racist because it was more the stereotypical features of someone who wasn't white, of someone who was from an African background. Being able to pick things up with your feet was considered a sign of criminality because you were closer to being an ape.
Oh, I can do that.
So, I can do it too. So, they would say that, skull shapes. Yeah, that's phonology. So that's not criminology. That's a anthropology thing.
Yeah.
Minnie was a woman. Most importantly, she looked after young children. My neighbours are banging, so if that's loud, I apologise.
I can't hear it.
Practice the giving birth. Okay, yeah, because they're drilling concrete and it's really loud. I didn't find any evidence or anyone really talking about how criminologically would justify her crime. But it's one of those things where was it intentional, the deaths that were happening? Was it something that she was doing maliciously? Was it something that she was doing just to get money? Was she suffering from stress and having to look after all these kids? Was she having some kind of postnatal depression that wasn't being dealt with? So there's all those kind of things that you got to kind of take into consideration for, crimes of that nature.
There's tons of reasons that you could say that she did it.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing with many. You can't necessarily just pinpoint one.
Yeah, there was the death in the family. There was, I'm sure there was money issues around that time.
Yeah, they they weren't very wealthy because they'd lost a lot of their income because of the gold rush. They were working as farmers, you know what I mean? And that would have been very seasonal income wise, and that's because you were looking after livestock. If you were just doing grains, That's of course only certain times of the year.
Like, there's so many things that you could pinpoint and say this could have caused it, this could have caused it, and then you don't know what's happening inside the house. Like, you don't know if she's getting abused. You don't know if the partner was involved in pressuring. You don't know. Like, you have no clue.
Exactly. Yeah, and especially because it's such an old case now. For like the Parker Hume case, both the girls are still alive. Their siblings are still alive. So you can ask. They obviously they don't really like talking about it, but if you wanted to, you could go and ask them and talk to them about it. But like in Minnie's case, you've only really got stories and stuff that was written down. So yeah, but it's still interesting.
Yeah, it's just. Also, I don't like that whole thing that people are born criminal, because that still gets thrown around. It's just.
Yeah, no, it's again probably very racist in nature. But yeah, no, that's just it's a theory that has been very much disproven in academic circles, but doesn't stop the tabloids doing it. The tabloids are the bane of my life. But when I've been writing about, obviously, because I'm writing about sex workers at the moment for my dissertation, the tabloids are useful because if you're trying to prove a point in regards to stereotypes or the way sex workers are treated in the media, you kind of have to pull from a tabloid just to see how sex workers are talking about their work and comparing it how to tabloids and broadsheets are talking about their work.
You've got I've got a extension blocker which blocks all of Murdoch media.
That's beautiful.
And then you've got
that's great.
And then you've got the fixed it on Instagram, which is someone in the media changes all the headlines to correct it so it doesn't stop. Mikey, no, and so it changes it so it's less sexist and changes it so it stops victimizing victims. I've also got the Donald Trump one.
The victimization of, because especially I'm assuming everyone on here knows about, it's under 3 different terms, like the Swedish model, the Nordic model, or the buyer's model. There's a lot of stuff coming out about that at the moment, because of course Ireland's adopted it and the UK is considering adopting it too. But the thing about the UK is when they make laws in Westminster, it's only for England and Wales. Scotland and Northern Ireland have to decide their laws separately, which is why Northern Ireland didn't legalise same-sex marriage until well after. So Scotland did it first, then England and Wales, then Northern Ireland, because they all have their own way of dealing with laws. Like, for example, in the England and Wales, there's the Sexual Crimes Act. It's still gendered, so it will say his penis. In Scotland, it says their penis.
Yeah.
So little subtle differences like that in the law can make it so that someone potentially could get away with a crime. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I'm just getting the extension for Mikey, sorry.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Knock yourself out. But it's just like little stuff like that, which is interesting. And obviously, if the UK adopted the buyer's model, which I think is very, very, very dangerous, just because it forces the sex workers to take on more unsavory clients who are more willing to break the law, and then obviously it comes into the fact of like, what do you class OnlyFans as? Like,
it's sex work.
Like, do you it's sex work? OnlyFans is sex work, but I'm like, would OnlyFans fall under the buyer's model? Because obviously they are producing and selling sexual content, and if it's the buyer's model, would people in the UK not be able to sell on OnlyFans? Would you only be able to buy it? Oh, no, sorry, not vice versa. Would you only be able to sell it in the UK, not buy it? That would wipe out a whole lot of income. I've spoken to a Swedish sex worker. Obviously, Sweden has the buyer's model because it's known as the Swedish from the Nordic model. She says that she doesn't have a problem, but she does create a lot of her content in the UK rather than in Sweden. Even though it's buyers, it means that, it just makes it a little bit easier under the law, because she can be like, hey, I actually submitted it and created this in the UK. I didn't break any laws. Like little stuff like that.
Yeah, we, like in Australia,
because it's state to state in Australia. Yeah, state to state.
Which is good. Like, in New South Wales, there are a ton of brothels. Like you can, I think that's okay to say. I'm not sure if you can call them brothels.
Yeah, yeah. They have them in Germany. There's I'll try and find the link. It's a UK link, so it might not work overseas. But it's a documentary about the German Uber brothels, mega brothels,
Yeah.
because it's legal there. And they use the term brothels in that documentary, so I'm assuming it's all right. And
Yeah.
the men who own the brothels are nasty, sleazy. They are disgusting men. Like,
I prefer it when a woman owns them.
Yeah, me too. Like, I find it's a lot. They're obviously going to respect them, and then so they're very, very common on the German-French border, because in France it's illegal. So the men who want to pay for a sex worker, they can just come across the border and do it. Which I'm like, that's fair. But then there's the issue of women from the poorer Eastern Bloc, coming over to Germany, obviously because there's better money over there. So they've obviously got concerns around human trafficking and stuff. So that's one of the things where it's like it's trying to find that fine balance between, protecting the sex worker, but also allowing the sex workers to be empowered themselves.
Yeah.
And yeah, another other thing that I found is there's very little research on, I'm going to say, non-female sex workers, because obviously trans women and cis female sex workers are very well researched, and a lot of the language is, in regards to sex workers, uses feminine pronouns.
Yes.
But obviously there are going to be I know trans male sex workers, there's going to be, I know cis men who have done sex work as well. Obviously they're a smaller minority, but they're going to have similar, if not the same issues as well, especially around HIV, AIDS, other STIs, pregnancy in the case of trans men.
Yeah.
A lot of that stuff needs to be researched as well. So, there's minimal research. They do include it. A lot of the research things that they do have male and non-binary trans male sex workers included in their numbers, but they are numbering maybe 5 combined, and trans women and cis women sex workers are the majority. And the reason why is because trans women, especially in the States, they can't really get new IDs that reflect their identity with the correct pronouns and stuff. So they have to engage in sex work in order to get money, because they can do that really without an ID, because they can make OnlyFans, they can engage in working in massage parlors, they can work,
It's just, I don't know, I'm someone who's very, into not making something illegal. They're like that, then it's but I don't know how to explain it. Protecting it and making it's safe. But if you make it illegal, then it's gonna make it a business for bad people. Not bad people.
You saw the exact same thing happen. Yeah, you saw the thing happen in Portugal when they decriminalized all drugs. Obviously, and in places like Canada, some provinces where drug users can go and get safe needles. I think that system's absolutely brilliant, because it means that it lowers the risk of STI, STD transmission. If they do have any issues or accidentally overdose, there's someone right there with a Narcan to support them. And they also, if they want to obviously give up drugs or get support, they can get it right there and then without that stigma. And I feel like it's just the stigma is the biggest issue, and the biggest thing that prevents people from getting support, especially people who have addictions or people who are in sex work, regardless of the reason, because at some point they may wish to leave, and obviously that's going to be up to them. Obviously it became hugely popular after COVID, so that's one of the reasons why I looked at COVID as my thing, was because it's an evolving issue, because it's like a lot of people have obviously started making sexual content online in order to make money.
Yeah.
And then it's like, what's going to happen is, is there going to be too much content and not enough buyers? I never think that's going to be the problem, because the good thing about having more sellers is that if you have a specific kink or a fetish, you're going to be able to find someone who's into that.
Yeah.
Which I think is great, which is fun, because it's like, oh, some people just have rather innocent kinks. They just like to be told off, and I'm like, that's fine, that's fun. There are some kinks that I take problems with, and that's including age play, just because I feel like even though they're both consenting adults, I feel like that potentially could start to blur the line a little bit in regards to, sexual deviancy and stuff. But
as long as you're not harming anyone, I don't care. I don't want to know
Yeah,
about
that's
it.
very
I
fair,
don't
like-
care.
Yeah, and then, like, of course, we've got the issue now in the UK of people trying to ban kink at Pride. And that's something that I don't feel like I'm well researched enough to, to have a statement on, because I see both sides of the argument. One
Mikey
side
has
saying,
a question for you.
yes.
Do you know what DDLG?
So, DD. No.
It's like
I.
it's like the daddy. I think it's B. It's like the big daddy little girl. So it's like the.
Is it?
It's like
I mean,
when the.
I don't know enough about it.
It's like when the.
I don't know the term.
It's like
so
when
I
the.
wouldn't know enough about it.
It's when the guy's like the big dad, and I guess it could be either way. I don't know, but it's like. One's the big, like, the parent, and one's the child, and they, like, do, like...
So, like, implied incest porn. Is that what you're getting at?
Not really. It's more like... It is, like,
See,
acting out, like, age issues. Like, age stuff.
Yeah. See, since I didn't know the term, I'm going to say that I don't know enough about it to have a thought on it, so I'd have to. Yeah, you can definitely watch clips on anything that's sexual in nature.
I don't
I'd
want
need
to because I don't like sexual things.
No.
That's just me.
No, me neither. I'd have to read. I'd have to read up a little bit more about it before I came up with a decision. But like same with like kink at Pride. Obviously, it's like some people are the camp, no kink at Pride because it's a sexual thing. People aren't consenting to be a part of your sexual fantasy, especially minors. So there's an issue around that. And then there's the other part of it where, it's Pride. They are members of the LGBT community. They should be allowed there. So that's why I'm kind of like, I need to do more reading on it, because I do agree that people should not be forced to be involved in your, if you've got a public humiliation kink, people who aren't consenting shouldn't be forced to consent to be a part of it. But then there's also then there's also the other. Oh,
Mikey just got touched out. I don't know what he did.
Oh no. Sent a link.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's like some people just wear like furries. Fine with them being in public. People wearing like those leather dog masks. That's fine. People wearing leather suits. That's fine. It's people who are like being whipped in public. Is where I'm like. I don't know how I feel about that, because it's like if minors might be subjected to it, that's not great because it's minors. But then it's also like it is, it's one of those things where I am quite conflicted over it, and I'd need to do more reading in order to choose a camp.
Yep. Mikey, you're talking to two people who like classify as one who's on the border of asexual and one who is asexual.
Yeah,
so don't...
I'm going on a date tomorrow, so that'd be fun.
Yay.
Yeah, first date with someone tomorrow. I'm very, very excited about that.
For
Yeah,
you.
we met on OkCupid, and they're really cute, so it's gonna be fun. We're gonna go for drinks, and then we're gonna go get dessert, because there's a really nice dessert restaurant near where we're going. So we'll go get some beers, because it's so nice at the moment, nice and sunny. And then,
That's
we'll
right,
see.
because you guys are in like warm weather.
Mm-hmm.
Hate you.
We're in warm weather.
I'm like freezing.
But it's the UK, so it's like 11 is warm. It's like 11 degrees.
Oh, wait, okay, never mind.
Okay, where are you? Because
I told you.
I'm in London, so it's
Oh, him. He's
not you in
yeah.
chat.
He's in
chat.
Qatar. Guitar.
Oh right, Qatar.
Guitar.
Yeah. Yeah. You're in the middle of a desert, so I feel like it being hot as balls is expected. So it's like when I was in Morocco, it was hot as balls because I went in September and it was still hot as balls. And it was lovely. I really liked Morocco. I had a great time there. Love to go back, but it was hot.
7 degrees.
7 degrees. Oh, the dream. No, like it's really weird because like I'm going to work in the morning because sometimes I don't finish work until like 11 o'clock at night. Yes, I love Moroccan tea so much. It's really, really good. I had a Moroccan tea cup at some point. It's not a cup. It's like a little. It looks like a shot glass. I love Turkish coffee as well. I'm not a big coffee fan, but I really like Turkish.
It's fucking freezing. I think he's gone again. Yeah, he's gone, guys. He's fucking gone. This is so funny. This is the funniest fucking stream. How has the Australian got better internet? This doesn't make sense. Fascinating. Sorry, I pasted that video not to sexualize the chat.
Yeah, there we go.
But to most of the
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's insane how they pour Moroccan tea, and yeah. Yeah. No, so I had Turkish coffee when I was in Bosnia. I was there with my friend Sam, and we went to a little Turkish place in Bosnia, and it was great. We had coffee, we had baklava. I love baklava so much. They're selling baklava at the local Lidl, but they don't have the one that I like. I like it with pistachio, so I usually have to go to one of like the bakeries near me to get it. Because fortunately, a lot of the malls, like, you know, in the malls, how they have those like little pop-up kiosks that sell like weird like nuts and sweets and stuff. So I go there to get my baklava.
Oh my god, Alex and Ali are falling in love. I just feel like third wheeled here.
No. Oh yeah, no, I'm used to third. I am so used to third wheeling. It's embarrassing.
Yeah, me too though, because you know being the married person, I'm always just sitting there like, cool. I forgot what it was like to start dating someone.
Yeah, no, I think it's gonna be exciting. You know, it's yeah, no, baklava's good. I hadn't tried it until I'd been to Bosnia, just because I was brought up in an era where the ban on nuts in schools was still relatively recent, and because as a child you're self-centered, you believe everything is about you. Because my school had banned nuts and my preschool had banned nuts, I thought it was because of me, so I grew up never eating nuts because I thought I was allergic to them, even though I wasn't. So it wasn't until I was like 15, 16 that I started eating nuts. And I'm not allergic, I just don't like them because I never ate them. So I like pistachio are my favorite. But I also, pistachio are the only nuts that I really eat. But if something like has nuts in the salad, I'll eat it. But like I never like I used to be a really picky eater, but like now the only things that I don't like,
you're all gross.
I don't like pumpkin. Yeah.
You're all gross.
Pumpkins. Do you not like nuts?
No.
That's fair. I don't like pumpkin. I'm learning to like mushrooms, but I won't actively buy them. Like if I have a pizza and it's got mushrooms on it, it's fine. If I have a pre-made stir fry mix that has mushrooms in it, that's fine. But like I just like pumpkin is one of the few things that I just avoid like the plague.
I hate mushroom. I hate pumpkin. This sounds like the worst. I hate everything that's healthy for me.
No, I really like healthy stuff. Like I like grapes. I like vegetables.
I like grapes.
I don't like walnuts really. Yeah, grapes are good. Yeah, it's like most fruit. I will eat most fruit. Like if someone's like, "Hey, Kai, I've got some dragon fruit. Do you want to try it?" I'd be like, "Yeah, sure, I'll try it." Like I'll try most fruits and vegetables. Try being the key word. Like
I love
like all the
kiwis
potatoes.
if someone will open it for me. I hate the furry feeling on the outside. I keep telling you, I hate the furry stuff.
Yeah.
So
I haven't had kiwi in a while. I like kiwi. I like lychee. I really love lychee. I like because I went to Vietnam. I did a lot of traveling as a kid. In Vietnam, I just ate so much fruit. Dates.
Yeah.
See, I like raisins, but I don't like dates.
I did my DNA test, Mikey, and I'm only like 60% white, which I'm shocked.
Oh, I'm 100% white. Well, I haven't done it, but my parents have. And on my mum's side, it's like English. It's like the UK generally and Sweden, and on my dad's side, it's the UK and France.
Well,
So
I'm all white, but I'm like only like the UK, like 60% the UK white. Yeah, but I'm like Italian, Spanish. I'm like 2% Jewish.
Ashkenazi. If, like so many people I know have like a 2% Ashkenazi in them.
Yeah, I'm 2%. Yeah, that. I'm just like, what? Yeah, I'm all that area.
Yeah, a lot of people I found that have Italian ancestry do have a little bit of Ashkenazi, especially Spain, because, obviously when the Jews were fleeing places, that's kind of where they were fleeing from or fleeing to. So it makes sense.
Yeah, it was really cool.
But no, like yeah, that is really interesting. Fun. Like my cousin's trying to do it at the moment because she's obviously got her dad's side of the family, which is how she's related to me, and then her mum's side. And obviously my mum's done the DNA test, and I've given her access to my mum's DNA records because she doesn't want to do it because she doesn't want them to have her DNA. So she knows all about her dad's side now, and she now needs to do her mum's side. And I'm like, just get your mum or your granddad to do the DNA test because you're going to have the exact same results. It's just going to be slightly more fit. It's going to be slightly more watered down, obviously, but the ancestry won't change. If you want to know, the ancestry of your granddad, it's going to be the same, just a few generations out.
Yeah. I don't know anything of like my dad's side, like, because I even looked on my heritage and there's no one on my dad's side on that side. Yeah. I'm just like, was I adopted?
It's how my mum found it. It's how my mum found her sister.
Yeah,
because my mum had a sister that she didn't know that she had and found her through one of those ancestry websites.
I'm just waiting to find out that I have like 8 different siblings on my dad's side. Sounds like something my dad would do.
That could happen.
Yeah.
That's the reason why I haven't done a DNA test because there's a family joke is that I was mixed up at the hospital just because I look like my family, but I'm very much personality not like them. So that's one of the running jokes in the family.
I look identical to like you could split my parents down the middle and put them together and it's me. But my personality is nothing like any of my family.
No. Yeah. That's what I've got too.
Yeah.
Which is fun.
Oh, I'm like exactly like my grandfather though. Me and my grandfather are
I
definitely
I take a lot after my granddad. My granddad is incredibly smart. And so like the family joke is that it's kind of skipped generation because like in my generation we've got me who's got a master's and considering a PhD, but the good thing I like about my family is we've all got a different kind of smart. Like we've got a cousin who works as an airplane engineer. His sister is a radiographer. One of our cousins owns and runs his own business. So, we're all smart and all clever in our own right. Other people own and run their own businesses. Other ones are, have a military experience and, are working as an armed response unit in Australia. So they've all got different kinds of intelligence, which I think is really, really, that's one of the things that is nice about the family.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah. No, and it's just interesting. Just reading chat. It's very funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, my sister's adopted, so like, it's not a problem. So that's always weird, like trying to explain to people that I'm not related to my sister, but I am because once again, New Zealand's small. So I think it's her great great grandfather is my great 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 uncle or something like that.
Kind of cruel in retrospect. Imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is.
That is.
I used to question. I used to say, "Am I adopted?" to my mum, and my mum's just like, "Why the fuck would a 16-year-old adopt you?" Good point.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
And you can't adopt at 6. You can't adopt at 16 unless, of course, the person's related to you. I think.
Yeah.
I think, or it might be. I know the rules are like 21 for someone who's not related to you, and I think it might be 18 for someone who is. So let's say, for example, one of your siblings passed away and left a child, and you were 18, you could adopt your niece, that kind of thing. But you couldn't adopt a stranger till you was 21. I mean.
Yeah.
What I was going to say, I also have a cousin that I'm related to on both sides of my family because once again, New Zealand's small. So her, so her mum is one of my cousins, but like a distant cousin, like second or third cousin. And on my dad's side, because my dad and her mum have the same last name. And on my mum's side, her stepmom is my mum's niece. So she's my my godmother is her stepmother, and her mother is my cousin.
Your family sounds as complex as mine.
I think one of my cousins is also inbred because her mother and father are first cousins, and we only discovered that during the genealogy test.
That's terrifying.
But it was accidental because they had different last names, but they shared a grandfather. But only one genealogy site has it listed as that. Other genealogy sites
100% British.
So, yeah.
It's fine. It's fine. It's just funny.
Yeah. Mm.
It is very British, though.
Yeah.
Also,
there's a lot of things in the family. It's very Alabama.
Yeah, but also very royalty.
Yeah, no, it's like one of the things where, like, looking at the family tree of the royal family, I'm like, it's just a line. Like, it's just a straight line. Yeah. But Daddy, I'm not like this normally on my streams. I'm usually a little bit more animated. Yeah, I'd be great at musical chairs. That's that'd be one I'm good at.
Yeah,
no, and
or
it's
statues, musical statues.
Statues, musical statues.
Yeah.
That was what I was thinking of. Yeah, and it's just like, oh, yeah, the Brits love drawing straight lines in regards to their British family.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you married your... It's like one of the things where it's like, Prince Philip was 18 when he met Elizabeth when she was 13. And I'm like, oh, like father, like son.
But wasn't it like, okay, so Prince Philip married the Queen, right? This is what I'm...
Yeah, but she wasn't the Queen when they got married.
Yeah, no, that's not what I'm getting at. But also, they were cousins.
Yeah, they're first or second cousins. Yeah, they are related.
Yeah, but they...
Yeah. So he's from the Greek side of the family because Queen Victoria's daughter, I think Alexandria, married into the Greek family, and that's his line. And then obviously Elizabeth's line is from the eldest son, whose name escapes me.
Yeah, and...
Ladavi, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. Because I'm like, Ladavi Quizman, you know. Yeah, second cousin and first cousin once removed. Thank you. I was like, Ladavi.
Wait.
Ladavi, you don't...
Both?
Ladavi's just Google in his brain.
Both?
Yeah. Well, no, because the way that it works is that every time you add a number, it's first removed. So second cousin, and then... Oh, wait, no, both? What the fuck? First cousin. So second cousin once removed. Third cousin twice removed. It's how many generations back you have to go for the removal, I think. But that's fucked.
No, they just said both.
Oh, right. Oh, God. That definitely explains why Princess Anne looks the way she does. No, that's mean. And it's like, oh, God. I genuinely do not blame Harry for getting the fuck out of Dodge.
What?
William's already had an affair.
Wait,
William's
what?
already had an affair, so...
He has?
Yeah, there was rumours that Williams had an affair.
Okay.
Yeah, there's...
Who?
There's rumours that... Yeah, I don't know. I one of their friends, I think, there's rumours that Williams already cheated on her.
Who the fuck would?
I don't know. I just... Remember, it came from a tabloid, so take it with a grain of salt.
I get that. Take it with a grain of salt, but, like, who the fuck would?
I don't know. That's why I do not blame Harry and Meghan for getting the fuck out of Dodge and moving overseas.
So once removed through Christian, third cousin through... So yeah, twice cousins.
That's fun.
Oh, that's so
Again,
funny.
that's why I enjoy when royals marry someone who is a peasant, because it's like, oh, there won't be any inbreeding there, which is great.
I wonder how many of them have 11 toes. That was probably the meanest thing I've ever said.
Yeah, no, it's like one of those things where I think it's because, like, in the UK you can legally marry your first cousin, so I think it's alright. I think it's
so gross.
I think it's fine. No, it's just like they just have to be more aware of genetic dispositions. Yeah, Oh, like, like there are people in because my family is very wild, because like my dad's ex-wife's sister is still considered part of the family, so like they're technically all my cousins, even though we have no genetic material connected, and we aren't legally cousins either. But I would still consider them a cousin. Just
This is a wild conversation that we've got into from criminology.
yeah. Well, I mean,
Yes, you have.
it's not that far off, because if you look at hi Plata, nice seeing you. It's not bad, because if you looked at like Lombroso's idea of biological criminology, being inbred would probably change the way your body is, and therefore, like, if both of your parents were criminals and were related, it would lead to having a more unfortunately deformed body, and would lead to criminality, because it would be something that you did.
In Portland.
I mean,
that's amazing.
No, in my family, my dad's ex-wife is allowed to come because the family loves her. They don't like my mum. They love her because they grew up in the same town. My mum was considered the homewrecker because my mother and father were already married to 2 other people when they met, and my mother was my father's secretary. You do the math.
Okay.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Oh, pretty whatever. Okay.
Yeah, my parents are divorced now, so oh well.
I'm not. I don't want to be sad.
Ladavi.
That's insane.
Yep.
I'm just like,
Yeah.
wow. There's not like the family has like. Don't worry, like my dad went with another woman, and it's the happiest thing that ever happened to me. I was so happy when he left.
Yeah.
I was 3 when he left for another woman, and it.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and it it created my brother 5 years later, and it's so good.
Such fun.
Yeah. It's like 4th, 5th cousin, and we previously met and only just talked a bit. Oh, imagine! I feel so bad. Created my brother. Yes, created. I don't like talking about how it happened. God damn it, Jazz.
No. The stork came.
Yeah.
And brought the child.
This is how I like. I feel bad because I feel like I made you upset, Kai.
Oh no, you haven't. No, it's fine. I'm not. I'm just. I have natural resting, like I always look like sad when my face is relaxed, or my thinking face. Like you said, I'm like, no,
you're frozen.
Just thinking. All right, that's fine.
Yeah, no, it's just your voice.
Yeah, no. It's just. I think it's just my voice. It's like one of those things where people can never tell if I'm being sarcastic, and people are like, "Are you upset?" Like, I'm genuinely not upset.
Okay.
It's the way that I. Where that's like, oh, thank you, no slang. Follow me, and you can hear my voice more often.
Yeah, I think you've gone through plugged. I've plugged you a bit. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, no, that's great, and thank you. It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's just. No, like I don't get upset. Don't worry.
No, I'm super sensitive to like making sure I don't offend people.
Oh yeah, no, that's valid. I am the exact same.
Yeah, I just don't like offending.
Oh no, same. I'm the exact thing.
Yeah.
But, yeah, no, sometimes I'm like, I trail off. I'm like, yeah, like, no, I'm fine. I'm just trailing off.
Yeah. But yeah, like, families are a bitch.
Mm-hmm.
Hence what I told you before we started.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Understandable.
Yeah, no.
Well, that's been a decent stream.
Yeah.
I was looking at the time countdown. I'm like, Jesus.
Yeah.
I was so scared. I was like, I feel like I only have like half an hour of material. But then we both got distracted several times. So it works.
Yeah, well,
Plata, Plata, you should watch the VOD if you want to hear about some family skeletons.
That's generally what happens, though. I generally get distracted and go, like, this is generally just I'm talking what I've got the dot points for, but then I'll get distracted 1.5 million times. Ali will tell you, Ali's no slang, Ali will tell you, I will not keep on track for the whole time.
That's good. I'm in good company then.
Yeah. I'm not... Shut up, Ali. I harass Ali too. Anyway.
That's fine. I harass Platter too, because usually I see Platter in chats. When you very much, I'm looking at Platter in chat, feeling like I'm making eye contact with Platter. And Platter very much should be asleep, but Platter's on the other coast to you, so.
It was interesting. Thank you for being here too, Kai.
Thank you for having me. It was fun.
It
gave me something to do during when I had nothing really much to do last week. I did have uni work, but I was procrastinating.
Yeah,
so.
I understand.
Yeah.
It was a good time.
Yeah, because you're in Perth. Plato. Of course it's 7 p.m. But you're still up at like 4, so shh.
But yeah, good luck on your date.
Thank you. I'm excited. It's gonna be. I'm nervous, but it's gonna be good.
It'll be good. You'll have a good time. And
I will.
yeah. And yeah, I don't know what else.
Do you raid anyone normally? Or
Yeah,
do you
I
just kind of
do.
end
But I do raid. I always raid.
Yeah.
I don't not raid. Like, even if I've got like one person, I'll just raid.
Yeah. I'm just seeing who's on that I know. So there's the people that I know. Lena, you, but you can't raid yourself.
I can raid myself.
Very Polite Gamer, Bond Member, and Montaigne are the ones who are live.
I've got some.
But Lena has the. Those are the ones that I know.
I've got someone who's only got one person.
Yeah, let's chuck them a one.
They're playing.
Yeah, that's what I do sometimes. Like, one of my friends is like, Kyle, you should raid Amaranth. And I didn't know who Amaranth was at that point. So I was like, okay. And then I realized who Amaranth was. I told them, I called them a simp. And then I ended up just raiding someone else.
Oh, sorry guys, I've already done it. They're playing Call of Duty, so I hope everyone's fine with that.
Are they playing Call of Duty with the husband?
No. This is a friend of my friend Laxlam.
Ah,
Yeah. But thank you all, and it was lovely seeing you all.
I am waving goodbye. I don't know if my screen is frozen or not. So.
But yeah, they also have a really cool dog, so if they put their camera up, you could just ask them for their dog.
I love dog.
Yeah. Thank you all for being here. See ya.
Thank you
for
being here. Bye.
Thank you, Kai.
I'm waving, it's not showing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Bye.
There we go.